There's two levels for what a bank is. It is the deposits that they have, that's what makes them a bank, and then it's what they do with the deposits, they invest them. So in a normal course of events, banks make business by something called the steep yield curve. So they borrow at, let's say, 2% interest rates, i.e. they pay you 2% on your deposit, and they lend it out to the market at 5%. That's the yield curve. So that's a longer term duration that they take the risk on. The issue is the yield curve got massively negative. In fact, the second most negative yield curve since 1980. So that means that the banks ordinarily would have to pay you 5% or 4% interest on your deposit, but then they invest it in the bond market in 20-year bonds or 10-year bonds or 30-year bonds, and they're actually getting less money, so they're losing money every day. So what they did is artificially change the yield curve. So they said, well, we're actually going to give you 0.5% interest on your money, and then we can lend it out in the bond market at something different, at a higher rate. So they manufactured a steeper yield curve. The issue is people have the freedom to move their deposits. So they can move their deposits out of this 0.5% world into a 5% world of CDs, Treasury Direct, money market funds. So people are incentivized to move their deposits because the rate of interest is actually the highest we've seen for a long time. So people are incentivized to do that. That means deposits shrink from the system. As they shrink, you have to unwind the bets that you had at the long end, the longer maturity bets. Now, the problem is those are all underwater because the Fed raised rates so much. So then they've got losses, mark-to-market losses. But to collapse the deposit base, you have to realize those losses. Normally, you can just leave them on your book as mark-to-market accounting, you don't need to worry about it. But in this case, you have to do something about it. Suddenly, poof, they're all got no money. So that's the real issue here. Now, there is a big shit fight going on about what people should do about it, what the government should do about it, what the Federal Reserve should do about it. Well, we should just guarantee deposits in the system. Okay, sounds great. Problem is, it doesn't get rid of the actual issue. The actual issue is the rates are too damn high. So the banks can't make any money. So if they just guarantee the deposits, people still go to Treasury Direct and get their 4.5% or 5% yields. So it doesn't stop it, slows it down somewhat, but it's still a huge problem. The only answer here, the only answer that they have is to massively cut rates, and I think 300 basis points plus, and also undertake QE. The reason they have to undertake QE is the banks, particularly these regional banks, smaller and medium-sized banks, have another big issue on their balance sheet, and that is they are the largest lenders to the commercial real estate market. Now, if we go back to when we first spoke at the beginning of the pandemic, at that point, we were all going to the office. I was in New York when I saw you because I was going to the office and we had 60 odd people in our office at Real Vision. Now we've got 3 people in our office. We've downsized once and we still only have 3 people in the office and we can't get out of our damn lease. And everybody's got the same issue. Nobody's going back to the office. The world has changed. We can all work remotely. So we used to do interviews like this in person. Now we do them over Zoom. So then we've got massive amounts of commercial real estate that are basically empty. And the numbers are a bit weird because you also need to realize that empty office space that's registered is entirely empty. But actually most people are trapped into leases where they've got 10% of their workforce going in. So as soon as those leases come up, people are going to tip those out too. So we've got a second bomb to hit these smaller banks, and that is this real estate market. And the real estate market is going to be illiquid, and chances are it's not going to get sold. I mean, I spoke to one of the biggest managers of commercial real estate for one of the biggest pension funds in the United States, and he's like, they're going to bulldoze over this stuff in the end because people are never going to use this. Yes, we can repurpose some of it for residential property, but actually it's quite difficult from regulatory reasons and how you fit plumbing and all sorts of weird stuff. So he said, look, we can repurpose some of this stuff, but a lot of this stuff is just going to get bulldozed into the ground in the end. And that's in 10 years' time, because there's nobody going to use that real estate.